Arlington, Virginia. A city full of history, color, energy, and movement. Although located on the south banks of the Potomac River, Arlington was once part of Washington, D.C. and its diamond-shaped border. In 1846, Arlington became part of Virginia once again and is now home to over 220,000 residents, despite being only 26 square miles. Recently ranked by CNN Money as being the most educated city in America, Arlington is a shining example of smart growth. High-density, mixed-use development is concentrated to within a half-mile of the regional metro rail system. Arlington has been successful in attracting people to live and work, but as its population grows, how can it maintain a high quality of living? How can Arlington keep traffic at reasonable levels? Over the next 30 minutes, you will see some of the creative ways Arlington is achieving these goals in fast-paced business districts and quiet tree-lined neighborhoods. It all starts with one of the most simple and efficient inventions in history, the bicycle. After a century of dedicating road space to cars and parking, why is Arlington making accommodations for bicycles?
It all started with the idea that if we move people instead of cars, we'll be able to build a more prosperous, dense, high-performing city. And we've gotten a lot of people to take the bus and to take the rail. And all of our development is built along our transit lines so that it's easy to do that. Once we got the low-hanging fruit of people taking transit, we still needed people to get around without a car. We don't have any room to build more roads, and our transit capacity, although expanding, is constrained. So the good place to add more capacity is in biking and walking. And so Arlington set out as a goal a few years ago, under the county board's leadership, to be the premier city on the East Coast for biking. In doing so, they laid out a number of things: that we needed to build the infrastructure, and that we needed to add bike lanes, bike trails, bike parking. We also realized that we needed to build bike culture, so we started a program called BikeArlington, where we have staff that do nothing but encourage and help people to get on their bikes.
BikeArlington is a program within Arlington County Commuter Services, and we do outreach, education, and encouragement to make it easy to get around by bike. I've had a long career built around bicycles. I raced for a lot of years. All the energy that I used to put into bike racing and training, I'm now putting into helping other people bike more. I really feel like the work that we're doing is making a difference in Arlington County, making this a better place to live, work, and play, and really having a positive impact on a lot of people's lives. Biking is part of the solution in so many ways. It's great for our public health. It's really good for our air quality. It helps our transportation problems and our congestion. It just helps our land use. If we don't have to devote as much space to roads and parking of cars, we can have cultural opportunities and parks and useful space that people enjoy. We can have a more enjoyable, vibrant community. It's good for business. It keeps money local, and it gives local store owners a whole new customer base.
Java Shack is a local coffee shop here in the heart of Arlington, and they get it. They get that having transit screens like this, providing information to their customers on real-time arrivals for Metro Bus, Metro Rail, Capital Bike Share availability, that's important to customers.
Arlington's been consistently gaining residents and workers really since the 80s, and it's taken off since 2000, and we're now recognized nationally as one of the kind of leaders in providing travel options. That also creates an additional level of vibrance on the street. I think it's great for retail. You know, that's good for safety, it's good for business. Again, if you look at trip making for Arlington residents, a lot of our trips are very short. You know, they're in the actually even less than 1 mile to 5 miles. Those are perfect distances for biking if we can make it easy and safe.
There's been a sea shift in the way Arlington DOT and Arlington government considers public transportation, biking, and walking. biking especially. In the old days, as few as 7 or 8 years ago, we had a bike guy. We had one bike guy, Rich Viola, and he did everything.
When I started with the county, I was the bike and pedestrian coordinator, and I didn't even work full-time on bikes. I had a lot of other duties as well. And today we have, I think it's at least a half dozen people who work on bicycle accommodations as kind of their primary duties. We've been working on building up a network of new bike facilities on street, bike lanes, things like that are there now. We've always had a pretty good trail system, but we've been improving that, making it safer and more connected. That's the thing that I think we're going to continue to do. But then there's been a large effort in sort of making it more available to people, a lot more information going out, a lot more kind of encouragement. If you don't know if you're a cyclist, here's something you can do, a class you can attend to teach you how to be better a cyclist. And just sort of including it as a message in all the things the county does is we actively encourage it now. We see it that it's great for our environment, that it's good for public health, that it helps get people around quickly and cheaply, and so therefore it benefits everybody.
So for a lot of cities and communities in America, this is pretty hard. We're changing a culture that's been based around the automobile and the default that you get around by car and cars are used for every trip. We're working on changing that, and it's hard work. It takes a lot of individuals, it takes a lot of groups to get behind it. You can't just have a couple guys that work for the county that call themselves the bike guys that are doing all this work. That's not going to be enough. You need that feeling and that sense and that effort needs to come from all departments in county government and from businesses and employers throughout the county and from individuals. For example, we work with the Crystal City BID, which is the Business Improvement District for the Crystal City area of Arlington, and they represent a lot of big businesses and corporations.
The Crystal City BID came to us with $250,000 to donate towards the initial bike sharing project, and that's why in Arlington we started with bike sharing in Crystal City.
Capital Bike Share now has 10,000 trips a day. That's 5 million trips we've had in 3 years. Imagine if all those trips were made by car.
The research is telling us that this array of services, educational services that we put out on the street every day, Bike Arlington, Walk Arlington, Arlington Transportation Partners, the commuter stores where people can walk in and get information, Arlington's Car-Free Diet, our outreach program. All of these outreach programs together bring 45,000 less trips, car trips, every day. We can get twice the transit use, twice the bike use, just by providing educational programs on top of the infrastructure. And I think that's what Arlington County does really well, and that a lot of other cities across the country really don't do well, and that's why we're getting more utility and more use out of the services we put on the street. This is important because over the next 20 to 30 years, we're going to be adding 30 to 40,000 residents, 30 to 40 to 50,000 employees. And so the goal is to become the best biking city on the East Coast. The county board set the goal for staff. Staff believes in the goal and is going about implementing it little by little every year.
I'm Andy Clark, and I'm the president of the League of American Bicyclists. And the League is a 133-year-old organization that advocates on behalf of cyclists. We educate cyclists and we promote cycling. And one of our signature programs really rates and ranks and recognizes cities for their bicycle friendliness. Mayors know, elected officials know, that in order to attract families, in order to attract businesses and entrepreneurs and the creative class that bring jobs and bring discretionary income with them, they need to offer the kind of quality of life that bicycling really defines, if you like. So there's a few key pieces that we know need to be in place, and Arlington has been busy putting those pieces in place over the last few years. But there's still so much more that can and should be done. It's still silver.
We're kind of got a chip on our shoulders that we're silver rated for the League of American Bicyclists Association. So we want to elevate our ranking to gold. And so we have to do a number of things in this. It also means that we need to be extra conscious of sharing our streets. And it gives us a good reminder to promote our campaign of pedestrian bicycle safety and through our Be a Pal campaign.
PAL stands for being predictable, alert, and lawful, those are great tips, whether you're biking, whether you're walking, and whether you're driving. This is not just a biking thing, this is for everybody. If you remember those three things, and also just to have patience and be courteous, which is, again, part of being a pal, be a pal to your fellow road users, that's going to make a big difference in keeping our streets safer.
We're in a place called Pentagon Row, which is part of Pentagon City. It's a commercial multi-use development. In planning language, we would call it an activity center. This is the kind of neighborhood that Arlington celebrates. We want to connect this to other parts of the county. And one of the goals of our master plan is to improve connectivity. We have some really high-powered neighbors. We've got the Pentagon on one side, we've got Arlington National Cemetery on the other side, we have some major commercial clients on the other side, we've got Virginia Department of Transportation. So here's the county. We want to do something on this stretch of road that is a state road, but we're under all these federal bridges. So we get the Federal Highways Administration to come in as our buddy, if you will, and talk with VDOT as another peer, the state, and we get a great project out of it. Everybody agrees. It's been a couple of years to plan this, but it's going to be a real study in cooperative arrangements. I don't think we're totally there yet. And the people who do the ratings that we're interested in are guided by numbers. They want to see more people riding bikes. Anecdotally, we see that. But counting individual bicycles going by a fixed location is not the same as sort of taking the temperature of all the activity in the county.
We really try to foster a culture where biking is normal. We want people to know that you don't have to be a mammal, is what the term is, a middle-aged man in Lycra. It's not just for middle-aged men that are wearing all the bike kit and all the bike clothing. For short bike trips around Arlington County, you don't need all that stuff. You need a bike, basically.
So when I first moved to Arlington 15 years ago, I wasn't biking as much as I am now. Really, a lot of that change had to do with the traffic in the area and realizing that there's so much that's close to home that I could ride a bike to and get there much faster, not have to worry about parking. And it was a great way to get exercise in a way of doing errands too. A lot of our friends ride bikes. We show up at places on bikes. We meet each other and we're on bikes. And so it's not only just a sport or a commuting thing, it's also a social thing as well. I've seen a lot more people overall biking. I'd love to see more women biking. And I don't think it should be a man or a woman's thing. I think it should be an everybody thing.
Very recently, I'm pleased to say we've struck up a very good relationship and constructive relationship with AAA because we've both come to the same realization that our members are not exclusively bicyclists or drivers. They do both. We're in this together, and I think the realization of that has made it easier for us to sit down and talk with AAA about things that we can do to help each other have a better experience on the road. They have 51 million members and drivers who they can reach. That's pretty important for us to take heed of and to work well with. We want drivers to understand how to operate around cyclists. We want cyclists to better understand how to operate around drivers so that we don't have any tension or conflict and there isn't that them or us story that some people want to keep pitching us into.
I think Arlington is a great example of the kind of change we're seeing, and I think a lot of communities around the country, perhaps including DC, are looking to what's happened in Arlington and thinking that's a way that we can remake our downtowns and our living spaces to be more walkable, to be more bike-friendly, pedestrian-friendly. We create these false dichotomies. We say motorists are motorists, they only have interest in cars, and then we have them being opposed by people who use mass transit, and then we have them opposed by bicyclists. Let's be real. Most bicyclists are also motorists. It's not as though we have divergent needs and views and that don't ever come together. You know, after having a country that basically worked for 100 years to make everything more car accessible, you don't wake up one day and say, oh, by the way, you know, cars need not apply, you're not welcome here anymore. Needless to say, there's enormous pressure and needs on our urban transportation and suburban transportation systems, and we need to work together to figure this out.
One of the challenges of improving bike infrastructure is sort of having that community conversation about who gets what space and who shares what space and how we share the space on the street, because in Arlington especially we're limited on the space.
I try to explain this to people in public meetings, even if they have no interest at all in riding a bike themselves, which is perfectly fine. There's a lot of people who aren't going to do that. If they can at least get out of the way or make it possible for somebody else to bike, perhaps allowing them the room to ride in a dedicated facility so they're not in your lane, your driving lane, for instance. I think a lot of people who drive all the time would say, oh yeah, that's much better. I would much rather cyclists have a way to do their thing and not get in my way. And similarly, you know, the more people biking or using other ways to get around, there's less people driving.
People need to feel safe. And there are people that don't feel safe biking on a street. As many bike lanes as we put in, we'll get more and more, but there's a range of person who doesn't want to bike in the lane unless there's some separation or they're on a trail.
I have to be really clear. I have a very good experience on Arlington's roads. But like other people, I sometimes let my bad interactions color my perceptions, and that was something that came up recently when I was out talking to people in cars about, well, what do you think about cyclists? And I was really expecting a sort of a negative reaction, because there's certainly no shortage in internet comments and other places of those damn cyclists are always in the way, and you know, that's my street and why can't they get off the road? So I was bracing myself for that. And honestly, I was blown away by how positive people were.
What do you think about bike commuters?
Bike commuters?
Yes.
They have every right to be biking just like we have every right to be driving.
Do you think people should use bikes to get to work?
Yes.
How do you think we could encourage that?
Stop selling cars.
Do you think we should take away space from cars on roads so bikes can use it?
Yes, that's a great idea.
Do you think people would receive that very well?
I think some will, some won't.
Do you think we should encourage more people to get on bikes for commuting or less?
I think bikes for commuting is good. Just I guess the best place is when they have their own little space, I guess.
Do bikes have a right to be on the road?
Not in my opinion, no.
Why not?
Because they don't pay attention to any traffic signals and they get in the way, especially around the monuments, okay?
The cyclists need a lane to travel in, but they should make it where they're not actually in the roadway. It's dangerous enough being in the car. You know, they don't have no protection at all. If you're gonna make a bike lane on the road, put up some protection so the cars can't hit them.
So what do you think about the bike commuters that pass through here every day?
Well, I think they got a right to ride their bikes. I love it. I like to ride my bike.
Do you think we should encourage more people to use their bikes to get to work?
Yeah, we should pass a law prohibiting traffic, except for my truck.
So what kind of laws do you think cyclists need?
Well, first thing, they need a lane, a secure lane, because sometimes it can be a hassle and a lot of people not used to the way that bikers ride.
The vast majority of people are supportive in general of biking. Sometimes it can get tricky when you get down to a specific project, and if that project is affecting someone like right in front of their house or right in front of their business. It takes a while. It takes a while to get used to this concept, especially for the people that have lived in Arlington for a while.
There is a general push by the county to say that bicycles are environmentally friendly, and in many cases it's not. When you put a bike trail, the county tends to put them in parks, and these parks often have things that are pretty valuable to some people. And they tend to go through anyway. And a good example of this is the Washington Boulevard Trail, which is The county is presently planning to put on the west side of Washington Boulevard, and this trail is going to take out a wide swath of trees, at least 100 in a woodland. And we don't have that many woodlands left in Arlington.
A lot of people who are concerned about this project don't really know what it looks like. They've never actually walked through this area before, and there's sort of this perception that it's some kind of a verdant forest. In fact, there's actually big sections without any trees at all. There's a few large trees like these over here. Some of them are dying, unfortunately, so they're probably going to come down soon anyway. You certainly could preserve this in its current state, but calling it natural would probably be a bit of a stretch. When you're driving by at 50 miles an hour, it's easy to imagine this being a natural landscape, but then you come across things like this. Giant culvert made of concrete. There's sort of this chicken and an egg problem where people see this trail as a short segment going through their neighborhood, and they say, why would anybody want to ride up and down that little piece of trail? Well, you just need to get out of your neighborhood blinders a little bit to realize that that little piece of trail is connected to another piece of trail on this end. It's connected to another piece of trail on that end. And so one of the challenges we have is neighbors and neighborhood groups tend to be very cohesive and to some extent well organized, and they can voice their opinion very well. What's not really well voiced is the larger dispersed voice of cyclists, many of whom may not even live in Arlington, but yet we're trying to accommodate their needs as well. That's harder to mobilize, and so you can hear a lot of neighborhood concerns, but you don't necessarily hear the corresponding benefits except from staff. And quite honestly, nobody really wants to hear that much from staff.
Make sure you scan and signal before you get to the stop sign.
So we've found to really reach people and help them make that change and give them the confidence to bike more, it really requires a personal touch. That's what's going to make the difference. And that's what Xana does for us.
You see, he put his foot in the power pedal position that gives him a lot of power to push off. You can throw as much information as you want at a person about biking in Arlington, about safety laws, about bike maintenance, but that's not really going to get them biking more often. What you really need to do is connect with them on an emotional level. We also teach adults who never learned how to ride a bike, and those are our Learn to Ride classes. It takes a lot of courage for these people to come to the class and learn something that most people expect them to know how to do already, that we all equate with our childhood.
I'm on the bike and I'm imagining telling people that I'm going to be riding a bike. I'm like, look, I rode a bike today. I'm thinking about my Facebook status. I'm thinking about how I'm going to tell the story to people. I'm like, this is going to be amazing. And now I'm thinking about, riding with my friends and not having to say, oh, I can't ride a bike, so we can't go bike riding, or we can't do this because I don't know how to do it. So I'm really excited about it. I'm more excited now that I've done it and I want to get better at it. And then I just want to go out and do it.
As encouraging as it is to put on these classes and see a lot of people really excited about it, there are occasions when I get 1 or 2 people in the class and that's it. I can't say that feels good, and sometimes I think I take it personally because I am so passionate about what I do, but I remember that that's why we're here. This is our job. No offense to the adults that I work with, but I have the most fun when I'm working with kids. Arlington Public Schools have been really helpful in coordinating different bike programs at the schools around Arlington to get kids educated on bike safety.
I don't really have time when my parents pick me up from extended day. I don't really have time to get the exercise except for on weekends. And even then, I still don't have that much time. Biking to school and biking home is basically the exercise that I get for the entire week.
Thanks for participating in Walk and Bike to School Day 2013. I'm Chris with BikeArlington. Xana's with me also from BikeArlington. We're going to guide you in today on the ride. Xana's actually going to be the lead rider, so she'll go out in front when we ride. Everyone else must stay behind Xana, okay? Because she knows where she's going.
It is awesome having a first grader and a fourth grader in this community. Biking has been a tremendous thing that's developed their skill, given them more insight into their neighborhood and their neighbors. Having role models in the community that are active and exercise and bike is phenomenal. It's fantastic for our kids, and they were so energized and jazzed this morning.
One of the signs that we're being successful in making biking normal is the families and the kids that we see biking now in Arlington.
It's not really as hard as it looks. Usually it's faster to get on the bike because you don't have to worry about parking, you don't have to worry about, getting screaming kids into the car or out of the car. Running errands with kids on the bike is so much easier and it's much more enjoyable. When we're out and about, we can point out things that are going on. We also see our neighbors, and I can't count the number of times that we just bike by somebody's house and they happen to be doing yard work or playing in the yard or getting in their car. And we can just stop and talk to them without doing that awkward two cars stopping beside each other and rolling down the window thing. And the kids can be involved in the conversation, and you can really be part of your community.
So I learn a lot about the community and how it functions just by being out in it. And you don't see the same things, when you're behind the wheel of a car. The only thing sometimes I wish is that the ride was a little longer. You don't actually get to clear your head with only 7 minutes on the bike.
Though folks maybe have different reasons for riding, the awesome part about this culture is you can meet somebody who's riding a bike, and it can be, me on this goofy looking cruiser with a little coffee cup holder next to somebody who's riding a $9,000 triathlon bike, and there's sort of an instantaneous connection, right? Or at least there can be, because most folks who ride, on some level there's a passion for it, or there can be, and I think that's something really special and that's unique. You don't see nearly as many people who have a deep passion for sitting in traffic for an hour and a half in their Honda Accord.
Bike to Work Day is the one day of the year that people who ride every other day get to feel vindicated, and it's the one day when people get to break the habit of driving to work and try something different.
Oh, it's great. And along the way, there was rest stops like this, and they were very crowded. So I imagine a lot of these people commute to work anyway on their bikes, but I hope a lot of them that's their first time, like me, and they'll do it more often.
The more people do it, the more the city's going to do to make the roads better or make the drivers more aware that there are a lot of bikers on the road, and just get them in the habit of sharing the road, because right now they're kind of like, this is my road. Bikers, get out of the way. But the more bikers do it, the more cars are going to be like, okay, we do have to share the road. It's just the way it is.
Cycling in the DC area, especially from Arlington, is just a great experience.
I rode a bike to work for about 10 years. Now, every year I see more and more people joining here.
So you don't do it just today?
No, every day. Last year I only missed one day.
We're the new biker gang.
Thank you for biking to work. Please tell your friends we need more people biking to work. It helps everybody.
I think if we're really going to change the way that people behave in the road space, whether they're drivers, whether they're bikers, or whether they're walkers, they need to be educated. We need to have a culture of road safety, and it needs to start in kindergarten.
Actually, in kindergarten right now, we're doing a little unit on biking. We have some little tricycles on the playground, and we have signs, and we're teaching our children about the signs and what they mean and how to follow the traffic signs. But really, if you walk to school at Nottingham, you will notice crossing guards at many of the intersections, and truly, the school is designed to be a walking school. So if people take the time to walk, just start by walking to see the safe path, and then, really when they're biking, they just have to teach their children to stop where they need to stop, slow down, be in control of their bike, and really bike with them or walk with them. You can really help them to learn how to navigate and how to slow down and stop.
It's a great thing for kids to walk and bike to school, and we want to encourage it. We want to make sure that our students understand the importance of healthy lifestyles, and to understand how living a healthy lifestyle and doing things like biking and walking, period, contributes to the environment and ensuring that we do our part in perpetuating a clean and healthy atmosphere and environment. So, and for their children and grandchildren to come.
Why would you walk when you can ride your bike?
Phoenix Bikes is another example of the future of bike advocacy in Arlington. We work with kids aged 12 to 19 and teach them all aspects of the cycling industry. They learn not only how to fix and maintain bikes, but they also learn customer service and how to manage a bike shop. So they really learn how to appreciate not only what cycling can do for them, but what cycling can do for the whole Arlington community.
I'd say we're in the top tier and we're getting better all the time, but we need more effort focused on getting people to think about bikes differently. That it's not just recreation, but it's also a way to easily and cost-effectively get around.
We've got to have the courage that we've had in the past to take that leap of faith that if we take out a lane of traffic or we take out a lane of parking along a major corridor and install a protected bike lane, I think when we do that, we will be a premier bike city. If we don't do that, we're going to be fighting around the edges.
I don't think we're at the finish line yet. I think we can make those difficult decisions and design our streets for everybody so that people can bike when they want to, where they want to. And if we do that, I think we'll find that we can have more bikes than cars on our streets in Arlington. I'm looking forward to seeing where this bike ride takes us.